Imagine receiving the phone call that could change your life. The call saying a compatible organ is available for your life-saving transplant. The relief, the hope, it's immeasurable. But beyond that call lies a complex, hidden world, and it's not just about blood type. It's about the intricate genetic language of your immune system. The clock is ticking, and finding that perfect match requires navigating cutting-edge science, vast databases, and challenging ethical landscapes where human lives hang in the balance. Today, we're going to unravel this complexity. Organ transplantation is one of the most remarkable medical achievements of the last century. It has saved countless lives and significantly improved survival rates for patients with end-stage organ failure. For many, it's not just a treatment, but the only hope for survival or a return to normal life. Think about the numbers. In 2023 alone, there were over 103,000 patients on transplant waiting lists in the United States, but only just over 23,000 donors were available. That stark reality underscores the critical importance of every step in the process, especially finding the right match. The success rate for organ transplantation has soared over the years. For example, one-year survival rates for kidney transplants were over 97% in 2013 to 2015, with 5-year rates around 88%. Liver and heart transplant survival rates have seen similar dramatic improvements. These gains are largely thanks to advancements in surgical techniques, better immunosuppressive drugs, and crucially, more accurate methods of tissue typing and matching donors to recipients. But this incredible progress exists within a system facing significant barriers. Beyond the sheer shortage of organs, challenges including managing the patient's immune responses, dealing with potential infections or malignancies post-transplant, and tackling organ rejection. These biological hurdles are deeply intertwined with complex ethical and societal questions, particularly around equity and access. Who gets an organ, and how do we decide, especially when the science of matching is influenced by human diversity? The history of organ transplantation is one of overcoming the body's natural defense system. Early attempts were often met with the rapid failure because the recipient's immune system saw the transplanted organ as a foreign invader, just like a virus or a bacteria. This immune attack is primarily mediated by molecules on the surface of cells called major histocompatibility complex, or MHC. In humans, these are known as the human leukocyte antigens, or HLA. For decades, scientists working to understand this rejection process, they discovered that differences in the HLA between the donor and the recipient were the main culprits. The body produces an immune response, recognizing these foreign HLA molecules as non-self and attempting to destroy the transplanted tissue. This led to the development of tissue typing, methods to identify the specific HLA molecules in both the donor and recipient to assess compatibility. Early tissue typing relied on serological techniques, detecting antibodies against the donor HLA. But the field rapidly advanced with the advent of molecular methods, using DNA analysis to identify specific HLA alleles with much greater precision. These technological leaps, combined with the development of powerful immunosuppressive drugs in the 1980s and beyond, were game changers, dramatically improving success rates and making transplantation a viable option for millions. Yet even with these scientific triumphs, the core challenge remains, bridging the biological gap between self and non-self. And this challenge is amplified by human genetic diversity, which is where the ethical complexities truly emerge. So how does organ matching actually work? When an organ becomes available, a sophisticated system is activated. In the United States, the Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network, or OPTN, manages the national database and matching policies. They consider multiple factors to match a donor to a recipient. Blood type compatibility. This is a fundamental requirement. Body size. The organ needs to fit the recipient. Severity of illness. How urgently does the patient need the transplant? Distance. The time the organ spends outside the body, during which it could be exposed to cold ischemia, is critical. so proximity between the donor and recipient hospitals matters. Waiting time. How long has the patient been on the list? And of course, tissue type, specifically HLA matching. It's important to note that personal and societal characteristics like income, celebrity status, race, or ethnicity are explicitly not considered in the allocation process. The system aims to be fair and medically driven. Now let's zoom in on the HLA again. Human leukocyte antigens are proteins found on the surface of most cells of your body. They are encoded by genes located on chromosome 6. Their primary job is to help your immune system identify which cells belong to you and which are foreign. Think of them as identification markers or biological barcodes. You inherit half of your HLA markers from each parent. This genetic inheritance is why siblings have a 1 in 4 chance of being a perfect HLA match. While parents and children are always a haploidentical match, sharing half, unrelated individuals are much less likely to have a close match. The HLA system is incredibly diverse or polymorphic. There are thousands of known variations, making each person's HLA profile unique. In transplantation, the recipient's immune system scrutinizes the donor organ's HLA markers. If there are significant differences, if the markers are recognized as foreign, the immune system can launch an attack. This is organ rejection. Rejection can happen in different ways. Hyperacute rejection occurs almost immediately, usually due to pre-existing antibodies in the recipient against the donor's HLA. It's rapid and severe. Acute rejection. Acute rejection is more common, typically seen within the first few months after a transplant, often mediated by T cells, a type of immune system cells attacking the graft. Chronic rejection. Chronic rejection is a slower process that develops over months or years, leading to gradual decline in organ function. To prevent rejection, transplant recipients must take immunosuppressive drugs, often for the rest of their lives. These medications suppress the immune system's activity, allowing the body to accept the transplanted organ. However, these drugs come with risks, including increased susceptibility to infections, certain cancers, and other complications. Finding the right balance, suppressing the immune system enough to prevent rejection without making the patient too vulnerable, is an ongoing challenge. This brings us to the impact of human diversity. Because HLA types vary widely across populations, finding a well-matched donor can be particularly challenging for patients from racial and ethnic minority groups. While matching isn't based on race or ethnicity, shared genetic ancestry means patients are more likely to find a compatible match within their own ethnic group. Studies have consistently shown that minority groups, such as Black patients, face disparities in accessing well-matched organs and often experience longer wait times. This is due in part to the lower representation of minority individuals in organ donor registries, making it harder to find these crucial genetic matches. Beyond genetic diversity, barriers like socioeconomic factors, access to care, and lack of awareness about organ donation in diverse communities often contribute to these inequities. The science is constantly evolving to address these issues. Traditional matching focuses on 3 HLA loci, HLA-A, B, and DR. But newer, more precise techniques are emerging. These methods look at specific amino acid differences or shared antigenic sites to better predict which mismatches might be tolerated, potentially increasing the pool of compatible donors, especially for hard-to-match patients. One of these has been suggested as a way to adjust matching thresholds to improve access for underrepresented groups or Black patients. However, integrating these advanced techniques into standard allocation systems like the ones used in the United States is complex. It involves massive databases, sophisticated algorithms, and careful consideration of how changes impact fairness and outcomes across the entire waiting list. This leads us directly to the ethical dilemmas at the heart of the system. The organ allocation process attempts to balance core ethical principles of justice, fairness and equitable distribution, and utility, maximizing overall benefit, often measured by transplant success and organ lifespan. To be sure, prioritizing HLA matching has clear scientific rationale. Better matches often lead to better graft survival and fewer rejection episodes, thereby improving outcomes for the recipient and making the most of a scarce resource. Studies confirm that closer HLA matches, particularly in the HLA-DR locus, lead to significantly better outcomes. The goal of maximizing transplant success supports allocating organs based on the best possible biological compatibility. Nevertheless, prioritizing based heavily on HLA matching, particularly traditional HLA-A, B, and DR matching, demonstrably contributes to disparities in access for minority groups. This creates a tension. A policy designed to maximize biological success inadvertently creates unequal access based on genetic profiles more common in certain populations. Research, like a key study published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2004, has highlighted this conflict. It found that the policy of giving top priority to zero HLA mismatches and then prioritizing based on a few mismatches at HLA-B and DR significantly increased the transplantation rate among white candidates compared to non-whites. They studied the effect of removing the priority for HLA-B matching, HLA-DR matching, or both. Their findings suggest that eliminating HLA-B matching as a priority while keeping HLA-DR matching, which has a stronger impact on graft survival, could significantly increase transplantation rates for non-whites with only a small increase in graft loss. This study serves as a powerful counterargument to the idea that all levels of HLA matching must be prioritized equally, suggesting that adjusting matching criteria can potentially improve equity without severely compromising utility. This is where science and ethics truly intersects, presenting profound dilemmas. Balancing utility and equity. How do we weigh the goal of maximizing the life of the transplanted organ against the principle of ensuring everyone on the waiting list has a fair chance regardless of their genetic background? Should a perfect biological match always get priority even if another patient is medically more urgent or is waited longer, or belongs to a group already facing disparities? The ethics of advanced matching techniques. As techniques like eplet matching become more common, they promise greater precision. But could their complexity or cost create a new layer of disparity if they aren't equally accessible or integrated into allocation policies in a way that benefits all? Controversies in family matching. There are even ethical questions surrounding practices like pre-implantation genetic testing for HLA matching, used to screen embryos to find a future sibling donor for a sick child. This raises complex issues about creating savior siblings, parental motivation, and the rights and the welfare of the child created primarily to be a donor. These aren't easy questions. They challenge our societal values around fairness, equality, and the limits of technology and medical intervention. Initiatives are underway to address these inequities, focusing on community engagement and education, particularly in minority communities, to increase awareness about organ donation and break down barriers to accessing care. But systemic challenges remain. Organ transplantation stands as a monumental triumph of human ingenuity and collaboration. It embodies hope and the incredible capacity of science to heal. But as we've explored today, it also operates at the crossroads of complex biology and deep ethical challenges. The science of HLA matching, vital for transplant success, is inherently linked to the history of human migration and diversity, inadvertently creating barriers for some as it clears paths for others. We've seen how HLA helps the immune system distinguish friend from foe, how mismatches can lead to rejection, and how immunosuppressive drugs manage this delicate balance. We've highlighted the disparities faced by minority groups and the ongoing efforts to refine matching techniques and improve equitable access. The journey of a transplanted organ is not just a biological one. It's a human story woven with threads of hope, scientific progress, and difficult moral choices. As science continues to push the boundaries of what's possible, our collective responsibility is to ensure that these life-saving technologies are applied with profound consideration for justice and fairness for every individual awaiting a second chance at life. What would you do if faced with the impossible choice between maximizing the biological success of a transplant and ensuring truly equitable access for everyone on the waiting list? How should society balance these competing values? Let's keep this vital conversation going. Share your thoughts and perspectives in the comments below. How should we navigate the complex balance of science, ethics, and justice in the world of organ transplantation? If this discussion has given you pause, if it's made you think critically about the intersection of science, ethics, and society, please subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the ethical frontiers of our world.